Marco, congratulations on being inducted in the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you. Thank you. The induction is an honor.
Yeah, much deserved. What individual had the greatest impact in your wrestling career?
There wasn't one single individual. I would say the intensity and competition between Lee Kemp and Dave Schultz inspired me. So just watching those matches, interacting with those individuals at a very early age really inspired me as what it takes to be the very, very, very best. Both world champions, ultimately one will become an Olympic champion, and just seeing the intensity, the competition between them was just amazing. The athleticism, the skill was immense.
Yeah, and how did you get exposed to those guys? A lot of high school kids or younger, they don't get that sort of exposure.
Sure, I was exposed to that kind of level of competition because I had wonderful coaches at all levels, middle school and high school and club, that knew what it took to be the very, very best. So they brought me around camps, they brought me around competitions and trials that prepared me for that kind of level of competition and gave me the vision to want to pursue beyond high school, university, college, the Olympics, etc.
Yeah, and that's great that you've been able to experience all those things
Yes.
too. Did you have a wrestling idol growing up? Somebody you looked up to? I mean, you mentioned.
Yes, I
some of those guys.
would say would have to be. We had Anthony Palomino, who's being inducted this evening, who was a legend by the time I hit the mat as a ninth grader at Independence High School. He had won a state title and 50-0, took a third at the junior nationals, beat some great competitors. Locally, he set the bar real high. But we also had Dave Schultz, we had the Schultz brothers, and we had the Lee Kemp Schultz rivalry that really just gave me an idea of what it takes to be the very, very best.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you get started in wrestling?
I got started in wrestling. My middle school coach, Coach Paul Ashmore, who I hope will be here this evening, I was in the middle of a fight after school with another frequent flyer in the principal's office, and I was getting the shorter end of the stick. And so before I got my butt kicked and handed to me, he actually dragged me into the wrestling room at Shepherd Middle School and said, "Hey, if you want to know what it is to fight, this is what you need to do. These guys right here, they fight, they wrestle, they get medals, they get recognition, they don't get suspended. So do you want to be part of something great? Here it is." And then he had everybody pretty much take turns on whooping me and saying, "Hey, this is a real fight." And I really walked away from that experience after licking my wounds and realizing that I'm involved in something not productive. Here's an opportunity for me to be involved in a sport that's going to engage me, that's going to really move me forward. And at that point, I was engaged in the sport of wrestling. I spent the next 2 years in middle school looking for every one of those kids that whooped on me that day and saying, "I'm going to get you back."
Payback, yeah.
Yes. It took me 2 years, but it paid off.
Yeah, it's so great too that you had that life experience, and now you're an administrator at
Yes, sir.
school, so you get to work with young people and get to share your experiences with them to help motivate them to do better.
I do. I get the chance and opportunity, being the principal and assistant wrestling coach at Gilroy High School, to work with kids that are in the stage I was at or coming out of the stage I was at, where they're trying to find their way and find their path and carve their own course. And I'm able to work with them one-on-one and to share my life experiences with them, and even still continue to work with them physically. I work in there. I get in and wrestle and work out with them and their mat side. And you know what principal gets a chance to do that? I mean, I've really taken advantage of that opportunity, and Gilroy High School is a special place to be as a high school principal and an assistant wrestling coach.
No, that's great, and I can relate to that so much because I started the program at Calvary Chapel High School, and John and I
Wow.
coached together there.
Wow.
But as a principal, I was working with the kids all the
Awesome. Awesome. And you were with Mike Phillips
Yeah,
at Capistrano Valley, right?
Before that.
Yeah. Awesome. Wow.
What is the greatest experience, greatest memory you have in the sport, Marco?
Well, it's hard to top the 1996 Olympic Games, being there on the mat and competing in Atlanta at the Centennial Games. First of all, qualifying for the games in itself is very difficult. You're going against the world's best, and there's only so many spots. At the 1996 Olympic Games, that was the first time they had limited qualifiers. And so to have to be able to qualify and beat out other people including placing higher than the U.S. because I did compete for the U.S. for Puerto Rico at that time, was tough. You're going to the Pan Am Games in Venezuela, and you're battling against the very best: Cuba, Canada, the United States, and you're from a small country. Battling and just being able to qualify and be able to make the games and placing in the top 15 at the games was probably the most awesome experience. Being at the Greco-Roman competition was at the first 2 days of the games. Freestyle was at the last 2 days of the games. You had the opportunity to go to the opening ceremonies, compete, and then spend the rest of the 14 days just having the key to the city in Atlanta and having a really great time with my family and friends. It was awesome. It's hard to beat that memory.
I would think that'd be hard to beat.
Yeah.
If you were to start your wrestling career over again, both as a competitor and now as a coach, would there be anything that you would do differently?
Absolutely. I would really pay attention to the published work of kinesiologists, nutritionists, and dietary aspects of the sport that really weigh in heavily as to how you perform as an athlete. Back then it was very limited as to what you had available, but I think the nutritional and strength training aspect of the sport would have made a bigger difference in my performance, I believe, because I was very relied on just my own intuition and what felt right versus what was really right. And I think that would have been, if I could tell an athlete, pay attention to what the scientists and sports nutritionists and sports psychologists are saying about sports performance, because it really makes a difference when you get down to those 6-5, those close overtime matches, especially at the national level, at the world level, and at the Olympic level. It really just goes down to how you feel, how you perform, and that's based on how you prepare. And so the preparation aspect of the sport is huge. We don't pay enough attention to it, and there's a lot of literature, there's a lot of research that explains how you could have your optimum performance, and that's just a very it's not how can I say, it's not amplified as much as it should be versus just going out there and just working hard and
Right.
being tough. But what does that mean? How can you have the edge? The fuel you put in your body, how you think about the sport, how you approach, how you prepare, how you warm up, how you cool down. All those aspects of the sport are just enormous. They're gigantic. And so I would tell an athlete, pay attention to those small details because they make a big difference in how you perform in the end.
It's so great that you can share those things with young kids too,
Yeah.
because it is a different sport than it was years ago.
It is.
What would you like people to remember about Marco Sanchez?
I would like people to remember about me, particularly that I was a competitor. I competed with honor. I competed with.
Hit my microphone when you're talking.
I would like people to remember that I competed with great honor, with integrity, with sportsmanship. I loved the sport. I had high goals. I always competed with. I always honored my opponents. I respected them, but my intent was always to go out and beat them. And if I lost a match, I would always have the utmost respect for my opponent because I would honor and respect what they did to prepare to beat me. Just like I'm honoring and just like I would have the same aspect of preparing and to beat them as well. So I think that the passion I brought to the sport, also the ambassadorship beyond the sport, being a principal, being a coach, your competitive years are just a small part of it. If you could give beyond that and your legacy continues beyond that and you're able to give back to the sport as an administrator, as a coach, that's great, because then you get the chance to give back to that next generation and that next generation and that next generation. As my coaches have given to me, as they've given to me, I'm giving to the next generation. I feel honored and prideful in that, and I want to continue to do that at every level.
Well, I'm glad you do. And my impression has always been you're a great competitor and really a class individual. And congratulations on being inducted into the California Wrestling Hall of Fame.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Coach.